Hi, everybody. I'm JP Hervis, and I'm joined by the managing partner of the Haggard Law Firm, Michael Haggard. And our guest today is Manuel Oliver. On February 14th, 2018, Manuel and Patricia Oliver lost their son, Joaquin Oliver, when a mass shooter walked into Stoneman Douglas High School and killed him and 16 other people in that school. Since that day, over the last 2 years, Manuel and Patricia Oliver, through their charity, Change the Ref, have worked to push back against gun violence with the ultimate goal of ending gun violence and also propping up and supporting the young people, the people who are going to help lead our future. Now, one of the many ways that Change the Ref has really accomplished a lot to this point is through art on stage, art in murals, art in paintings. And now, Change the Ref, Manuel and Patricia Oliver, have a new campaign called the Antiviral campaign, where they connect one pandemic with another.
During this period of wearing gloves and masks, there's also people dying for gun violence. You're gonna wash your hands because you need to wash your hands so you can save your life.
Manny, thanks for joining us. Tell us about it, the antiviral campaign, antiviral weapon campaign.
Well, thank you for having us here. The campaign is just something that was adapted to the situation. For a while, I was very concerned that the whole pandemic situation will somehow move apart our cause and conversation. And the only way to get back to that point was to connect somehow the narrative of our cause to what was going on with the pandemic. And by the way, they are very similar because I see people concerned about life. And I've been concerned about life since the last 2 years. I lost that battle because we lost our son. So when you see people that they don't know if they're going to be alive or not tomorrow, that is pretty much what gun violence is. So we needed to stay home. We needed to come out with an idea that was creative, made from home. And that's how not only Change the Ref by Patricia and myself, but the whole team, volunteers, we came out with this idea, and to our surprise, it became viral, and I'm very proud that we were able to send that message.
You talk about these two pandemics being related, and when you see the surge in gun sales right now, it is so scary to everyone because you're wondering what's going to happen when people get like this, and when people start to think about their own mortality, they start to get more realistic about what has been happening with gun violence. And, in Manny's show, he poignantly illustrates how often the life is lost to gun violence. And we've heard the stories every night about how often we lose someone to COVID-19. And we can deal with two things at once. I mean, this is a sophisticated society. It should be dealing with multiple things at once. And gun violence isn't going to go away whenever we reopen our society. I mean, the only reason we haven't had a shooting death at a school in this long is because of one thing: schools are closed. And that's a sad reality because that's not how we can fix it. We're not going to close our schools permanently. Mm-hmm. So people need to be thinking about these issues as we hopefully get out of COVID-19. We solve some other big problems that we've had for a long time.
And I have a question here for both of you. Manny, when you start seeing the stories that gun sales are surging as the pandemic starts to take hold of our society, after having victories here and there and push back against the NRA, to see that gun sales would surge at a time like this and be almost considered an essential business, that, among the many challenges you guys face every single day, that had to be difficult for you.
Well, that says a lot about our society in a bad way, because we always pretend and show off with other nations that we are the most powerful nation ever. And it's a kind of an arrogant situation that we've been carrying for decades. And it's not true. When your society, our society, decides that a gun becomes an essential item in a situation like this one, that means that we live afraid, we live scared of the others. Every time they say we're in this together, we're not in this together. We're not in this together. Some people is arming to protect themselves, maybe to have more access to things that at some point we'll find that debate and who has more power to get either the essential resources. The guy with the gun probably will have an advantage. So I think that the gun lobby, it's okay with this, of course. It's part of their game. They keep pushing fear to people, and our society is very weak, and they find that as a solution, and that is totally an American problem. It's an American issue. You see the pandemic in other countries, but they don't have to deal also with the issue that people are arming themselves. So they're adding death. I've heard the president in one of those reports that he's doing every single day, letting us know how he knew that people will be depressed after this. People will lose their jobs. People will be having issues at home, domestic violence. So those were like statements made from our leaders. How come those same leaders allow guns to be out there if they know that this is happening? So for me, it just says, explains in a very graphic way who we are and how we are not the most powerful nation of the world, not in terms of our society.
And Michael, to that point, on the day that we're recording this, there's a statistic that came out with the new unemployment numbers that 1 in 6 Americans is now unemployed, and gun sales are going up. And you know, you were talking to me about this weeks ago. There's a real concern about surge of violence amid the stress of loss of job and people getting out and about, and here comes the summertime, and all these different elements that we know can contribute to gun violence. And I know you wanted to touch on that.
Well, you look at the tragedy that happened in Nova Scotia, and within a week, they're dealing with the same pandemic that we are, that every country in the world is dealing with. They'll have legislation that will drastically change gun safety laws there, if not eliminate. I mean, they will attack that just like New Zealand did, just like Australia did. You're going to have a huge surge in mental health issues when we come out of this. You're having it right now. You can't have 26 million Americans lose their job. The stress of everything else that COVID-19 has put on us, it's going to have huge mental health implications. We know that now. What are we really going to do about it? Like every time they talk about mental health problems, we have those problems. What are we doing about it? We haven't done anything about it. We haven't done anything about it. And so the problem with that is you use it as an excuse because it's there, but you're not tackling the real issue. And that real issue is guns, accessibility, and all the things we've talked about for years. And if we don't deal with that, we know we're going to have a mental health surge. We know that. It's happening right now. And domestic violence, when we're forcing everyone to be at home, which is the right thing to do, domestic violence victims have nowhere to go. I mean, the shelters, for most part, have shut down. And so that's forcing victims to be with folks who now have more accessibility to guns than they've ever had.
Not only they keep selling guns, which was already a surprise for me, but they made it easier. Like you can go through a drive-through and buy a gun, which is incredible. They can provide you service of selling a gun from the parking lot. So these groups decided to demand for their rights. The reason why they're doing that, and they can do that, is because of the Second Amendment. And that's why other nations don't have to deal with this because it's not a right. It's not written in the Constitution. The thing is that we are treating the Second Amendment as a sales pitch from the gun lobby. And it's going to take a while. I've learned in the last 2 years that it's going to take a while because it's a culture problem. We believe that in America. I'm saying we because I think it's fair for me to say because I live here, I became an American citizen. So we believe in that. We believe that gun culture, it's part of us. And it's going to take a few years for those powerful youth that are becoming leaders now to take control of the situation and somehow change that status quo. And I believe that at some point, America has a little delay when it comes to social understandings. And we're going through one of those delays now. But we're going to reach that point where we will absolutely know that gun culture is not the way to identify your society. Hopefully the kids will do that. We need to support them. And that is basically what we do in Change the Ref.
And here's my last two questions, but I'd make the point, it's contingent upon all of us, and we're all fathers, and Manuel, as you say to me all the time, you're still a father, contingent upon all of us of the older generation to lift up those young people as much as we can. Michael, I want to take this and take a look at it from a civil court perspective, especially from negligent security and premises liability. After September 11th, the security industry shot through the roof because there had to be a reaction to how the security world had changed completely. When it comes to folks who are charged with protecting schools, homeowners associations, hotels, everything that the Haggard Law Firm deals with a lot with these negligent security cases, is there going to be a new sense of foreseeability of act? Is there going to be a new level of responsibility that they're going to have with the outright knowledge that everybody has that there are even more guns out on the streets right now, and there's a likelihood to have more mental health issues, more problems with more unemployment? Is that really going to be now even a higher bar for them to meet the security needs of their properties?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. I mean, when you have a heightened sense of everything we're going through in this country, you're on the verge, obviously, of a serious recession, if not worse. Things will be very tough for people, so crime is going to naturally increase. And when you add to that the mental health issues and the availability of guns, it's inevitable. And and as much in our cases, and it's so important, I always talk about it's really a trifecta of things going on. It's the lack of security, whether it be at a mall, whether it be at Margie Stoneman Douglas on February 14th. I mean, there were security breakdowns. But obviously, if there wasn't a gun there and the type of gun, it would not have happened like that, and certainly to that extent. And you have the mental health aspect. So all three thrive together. And I think that, as much as we may bring cases against businesses, I want to help businesses out more than life itself. Because if you eliminate these weapons, guess what? These types of crimes aren't going to occur at these businesses. And that's where, it's not only a commercial property or really any type of property owner responsibility, it's also a social cultural responsibility that Manuel's talking about. And it all comes together. But I do think businesses are going to come out of this, really have to ramp up security because there's going to be, there are going to be violent crime issues for a while.
And Manuel, last question for you. How can folks learn more and most importantly, support Change the Ref?
Well, you can go online, changetheref.org. You will see all programs. We are a group that is dedicated to use art and some advertising techniques to create a new message, the right message, in our opinion. And I think it's fair that we have that same opportunity that the gun industry has had for the last decades. Now we are bringing that new narrative. Visit changetheref.org. You can make a donation, you can buy merchandise, or you can just see what we do and probably connect with us and start following what we do. It's not anymore about saving the life of my son. I get that. It's about saving other lives.
Well, Manuel, we appreciate everything that you and Patricia do and Change the Ref, and we encourage everyone to visit changetheref.org. to support your cause. And you guys stay safe. Thank you for your time today. And one thing that I think we should all remind folks is, although we can't really see too far ahead, what is coming up is a major election. And that might be the first push that we really need to push back on a lot of this gun violence. So, Manuel, once again, I appreciate it. For Michael Haggard, I'm JP Hervis. Thanks for watching.